In this video, I want to look at some techniques for selecting and splitting events. Now, to start with, we've been using the arrow tool, but you'll notice that it's highlighted with the range tool that's next to it. And we use this bracket key to separate the two. But when it's on, we get a kind of smart tool where it encompasses the best of both of these tools, depending where in the track you position it. When we're at the bottom, we get the arrow, and in the upper part, we get the range tool. So let's look at this. We can select outside any event and sort of drag across rubber band select, and it'll select the entire event. So that's the quickest way to select multiple contiguous events. And as long as we do it in the arrow zone, it'll select the full event. Now we can also shift click multiple events, and that'll select non-contiguous events that are not near each other. So right now we have that one, and that one selected. I'm going to click in the background to deselect. And we also have some select commands under the edit menu here, where let me just start with selecting one of them so that they're highlighted. We can go into here and we can select from the start until that event, or select from that event until the end. And there are key commands to accompany those. Now, we can also shift double click on a track, and that'll select all the events on the track. So for example, again, I'm clicking in the background here to deselect. If I shift double click here again in the arrow zone, not up here, but in the arrow zone, I've selected all the events on that track. Same thing here with instrument parts. I've selected all by shift double clicking. Now we can select multiple audio events, and we can adjust the volume envelope, and it'll adjust all of them. So for example, I'm going to shift double click here, and I can bring this down and it'll move them all. And I'm going to command click to snap it back. But what I can do to maintain my selection and just adjust one is hold down the Option key, and that's Alt on Windows. Now I'll just adjust this one volume envelope while the others are maintained and the selection is maintained as well. And again, I'm going to command click to bring that back. And I'll click in an empty space here to deselect. Now we can use the range tool or the range zone, which is the upper half when they're ganged together like this, to make time-based or range-based selections. So if I click here, I'm selecting just a portion of this audio event, not the entire event. Now what's great is we can use this with snap as well. Let's say I go to bar, and it'll now snap to an even bar. Maybe I want to select one bar of that, and I have that selection, and I can shift click to make another bar selection, let's say over here. And then I'll shift click again and maybe select part of this instrument part. Again, bar. So I have all these selected. So what's the point of that? Well, I can now grab on the bottom part with the arrow and maybe move them. And there I've just taken them out of there and moved them away. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo, and they're still selected. I can hold down Option, drag them, and now copy them. So maybe I want to copy those specific areas to another location, and there they are. It's going to hit Command Z and undo that. So very useful to do that. And if you do that with the snap and the relative grid setting, you can select, let's say, vocal phrases or guitar phrases, things that don't necessarily conform to a specific bar, and then you can move them confident that they'll maintain their offset. I'm going to deselect again. Another thing we can do with the range tool is simply double click to split an event. So in the upper area here, just double click and split that. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo, and I can do that here, and I can do it on instrument parts as well. Command Z, and there we go. Now we can also split an event on the selected track with the shortcut Option, and that's Alt on Windows, with X. So for example, let's say I position my playback cursor there, and I have this selected. I can just go Option X, and it's split it right there. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo. Now, if you couple this with the basic navigation commands we learned a few videos ago using Shift with the minus and plus key, you can easily cut even bar increments away. For example, let's say I want to make a split there. I'm going to go Option X, and now go ahead, another bar with Shift plus, and then Option X again. Now I've isolated one bar, and I can Option drag that to copy it somewhere else if I want, and there it's snapping right to the bar line. So you can really fly with these commands by navigating the playback cursor to where you want, and then Option X. Now, if you want, you can, of course, hit 2, and then you're going to get just the range tool, and you can use that anywhere in the track lane. But let me go back to coupling that. When it's coupled like that, what we can do is hold down the Command key, and that'll toggle it to be the range tool in the entire height of a track. So you don't need to use the dedicated range tool. You can use this grouped or smart coupling and then just hold Command down. That's Control on Windows to get the range over the whole zone. And we can also hold down Command and Alt, and that's Control and Alt on Windows. And we get a slip editing tool. And that means we can move around the contents within an event without changing the boundary. So I'm going to hold down Command Alt, and again, that's Control Alt on Windows, and I can move it as you see like that. That's going to change the timing of the music in relation to the bars and beats. But the point is, I'm going to hit Command Z to undo. You can get access to data beyond the range of these events. Now, that's providing that there's data there as well. I'm going to do it here. And same thing, I'm sliding back and forth so that the boundary of the event remains, but the contents within, it's like a container, and the contents within are moving. I'm going to hit Command Z to bring it back. So those are some basic selection and splitting techniques.